Hi, everyone. Thank you for watching this screening of Cinema of Sleep on Bend Films 18th edition. And thank you for clicking on the Q&A and joining director Jeffrey St. Jules, writer-director Jeffrey St. Jules, and Dayo Ade, the wonderful actor, lead actor of the film. Thank you guys for coming. Well, on Zoom. So I'm going to jump right in. So this is a very rich and layered film. It has so many things packed into it. It's got social realism, social justice issues. It's a thriller on the one hand. It's surrealistic on the other. It's a mystery. It's so many things. It's unsettling and warm and compassionate all at the same time. So I'm curious, like it's a pretty ambitious project to write and film for you, I bet, Jeffrey. What was the draw of so much complexity for you? So many like contrasting things mixed in together. What's the appeal there for you?
So I just ask one question before I answer, which would be, this Q&A is just for people who have watched the film, right?
Yes.
Okay, just want to know about like whether I can talk about what happens at the end.
Spoilers.
Yeah. Don't worry. This would be like after. I mean, I guess people could do anything they want. You know, they could watch the Q&A first.
Okay. So I guess I'll tell the people, if you are watching this before you watch the movie,
right?
Maybe don't. So yeah, I think like the films I've made in the past have been very ambitious production wise on low budgets. I did a period musical and like fantasy worlds and things that are quite, I would describe kind of more maximalist, like I throw everything in and just kind of play with it. So with this film, in terms of like the shooting, the intention was to do something very minimalist because it's all one room for the most part, like 80% one room. And really contained just with a few actors. But I suppose the ideas and the kind of layers of reality that we're dealing with has a certain complexity to it. And sorry, the question was, why did I do that?
No. I mean, not necessarily like the complexity of the production, but the mixing of genres, like jumping from a thriller mood to another mood. I'm just curious, what's the appeal for like putting things together in such a way for you?
Yeah,
your choice of subject, structure, plot, what have you.
Okay, so I think I do always like playing with the genre and using like cinema language and cinema history as in like informing the style for it. So we wanted this to have a very like a film noir vibe to it, but in a way that didn't feel like, not the things you would expect from a film noir. So it's shot handheld in a sort of more modern aesthetic, but kind of within the music and the tone and the performances, not necessarily the lead performances, but the side characters all were meant to have this kind of archetypal feel to them that were reflective of, kind of classic American films, which for Anthony was the way he viewed, that was his image of America, was based on these films. So the spoilers ahead is that, when you discover that this is all in his imagining, this is his universe. This is how he, in his subconscious state, envisions America to be. Not that he thinks it's this way, but this is how his subconscious conjures it all up for him. And I guess that's the impetus for creating this sort of it's a tough film to answer because I didn't go in deliberately saying like, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to make a film that just kind of seeps into it. And the initial idea was more around the title, Cinema of Sleep, and the idea. So I'll give you the connection between film and dreams. because I feel like there's a lot of similarities with film and dreams in the way we experience emotions. They kind of overwhelm us and overtake us, and they don't have a sense of logic or reason to them as much. And that's kind of what I was interested in the beginning. And putting a character who's kind of being pulled into this cinematic dream world, trying to get back to his family. And that's kind of an archetypal nightmare, I think, that everybody has some version of. Like, you're trying to get to your loved ones, but things keep coming in your way. And the more you try to run at it, the more the obstacles keep getting, the further away from it you become. I think I'll stop there. I don't know where I'm going to go from there.
So it wasn't, I mean, I guess what I'm getting at also is a bit like, what was the kernel of the idea that kind of kickstarted? Was it Anthony's story and background and diving into a character's subconscious in that way? Or was it more, I want to make a film that has these elements, like genre elements or mood and tonal elements? Like, what was the starting point, and how did it evolve, I suppose? Like an onion, like layer upon layer, or more like the folding of the mystery and the plot as it unfolds? I don't know. I'm just curious about like how you wrote it, how you developed it.
So the starting point was that kind of idea of a dream, you know, where you're kind of being pulled away from something and trying to get to something. And that was the initial seed of it. And I started working out through the idea of it. And, you know, it was a time when there was a lot going on with the refugee crisis in the Mediterranean, and seeing a lot of what was happening there. And, you know, I guess something just clicked in me that this felt like a metaphor for that, being trapped between two worlds, and having to leave a world, like having to fully abandon a world in order to move on. And this sort of metaphor for this character, who, another spoiler alert, is gonna die and he's moving into death, and that's the world he's got to move forward to, and the world he's moving away from is his family and the life he had before. So that metaphor seemed very powerful. So it felt like that, you know, this is where the film had to go. And that's when it sort of started taking on the angle, you know, a more social angle to it, about, you know, things that are happening in the real world. And I wanted that to sort of land, you know, at the ending. Like, I wanted to create a film that was a thriller, and then that you kind of like, it twists around at the end and you're like, oh my God, this is something more than that. You know, about this particular experience of this character.
And Dio, how did you kind of tackle where the character is at from scene to scene? I don't know if you shot it in a linear fashion, or did you have like emotional pointers, like some kind of emotional roadmap because you go through kind of so many different things in close succession. How did you tackle that in your performance?
Well, from the point of view that I came from, this was Anthony's reality. So it was just a reality of, this is what's happening. I'm trying to, as Anthony, trying to get back to my family. But every time I think I've taken 2 or 3 steps forward, it seems like I'm actually 10 steps further away from being able to actually grasp them. The beauty of also shooting this, which was actually my first time ever doing it like this, we got to shoot it in chronological order. So it was actually really fascinating to be able to start a project right from the beginning, you know, meet my co-star Getty, who was amazing. And we had dinner, we had breakfast, we spoke about our life experiences, because we're both first generation Canadians, and just how we vicariously lived through our parents who were immigrants. And shooting the film in chronological order actually gave me so much more freedom to be able to really just dive deep. I did a lot of the research through my mom and my dad, just asking them questions, because I was only 4 when we first moved to Canada. Just a lot of questions about their experiences from the things that I couldn't remember. And it just actually brought back and surfaced a lot of things now as an adult looking back and understanding all of the sacrifices that my parents had given up for us to be able to have the lives that we have now, it just still blows my mind, even as we're speaking about it now. Just the things that immigrants do, to what lengths they're willing to go to be able to give their families and loved ones a better life. So overall, we got to shoot it in chronological order. It was amazing. Jeffrey's amazing. The fact that all this came out from his brain, I'm still in awe. And yeah, it was an emotional roller coaster that really made me tap into my roots, my parents' roots, doing more research of our migration from West Africa, Nigeria, to London, England, to Canada, and then doing it a second time, and how that second journey was different from the first journey. But I really tapped into my parents' first journey and how they did it with 3 young kids, 4 and younger. So I was 4, my sister after me was like 2 years and 2 months old, and then they had a 6-month-old baby. So to this day, it just blows my mind how they could have done that whole trek with 3 little kids under the age of 5. So that was my point of view as far as for Anthony.
What kind of a working relationship did you guys have in preparation to the film and during the filming? I mean, since you're kind of scared one moment and you have a very compassionate and warm conversation with your co-star, and then you go to confused and overwhelmed, like how was the process of like, okay, now this is what's happening in the scene, and was it all in the script, or did it kind of get a bit convoluted in the edit? Tell me. I don't know what I'm asking you.
Yeah,
you guys
no, I absolutely understand, because actually you're hitting the nail right on the head with great questions. The beauty of it also was that Jeffrey allowed us as his talent to be able to come in and get to know each other, speak on our truths from our experiences, and then we rehearsed key scenes that were really important to Jeffrey. And Jeffrey spoke to us like what scenes really spoke to us. And we had, like, he gave us a sufficient amount of time to actually lay out to map out the choreography of the scenes. So to be able to do that ahead of time, meet your co-star ahead of time, rehearse the scenes, the choreography, like just direct, and he would direct us and tweak things, and okay, well, maybe we should move this piece of furniture here, so that way, if this is what Dio as Anthony is feeling, this will feel better here if he does this. It was just so well thought out. Like I said earlier, I've never had the opportunity to have this much creative freedom and at the same time creative space to be able to rehearse ahead of time, and then just to be able to just on the days of work just come in focused as the character and then just do the work. So just I tip my hat to Jeffrey for giving us that safe play space to be able to play in. And this movie was not easy to shoot because it really was an emotional roller coaster. And then you find yourself tapping into things that sometimes you really don't want to go there, because it resurfaces certain emotions that, just sometimes are just hard to look at. And I think the preparation of just being able just to do the walkthroughs of the very hard and specific scenes ahead of time was what really gave us that strong platform to be able to come in on the days of shooting and just execute, what we had in front of us on the days of.
Yeah, so I think for this film, I had this film that was kind of set in a room, and I really wanted to take advantage of like in my last film we were just there's so much to set up, like so much you had to deal with in terms of figuring out locations, figuring out building sets, just so much like stuff to deal with that wasn't just the creative working with actors stuff that I enjoy the most. So with this one, I really wanted to take advantage of the fact that we can do that. We can get in beforehand. We can shoot chronologically, and we shot chronologically, not the order of the script, but the chronologically in terms of when things actually happen, because the script's not in order. So we started with like 20 minutes in. So Dio and Getty are kind of meeting each other for the first time, and then like move forward that way. And yeah, so it was, and with this film as well, like a big thing about this film was that, I was making a film with lead characters who is not from my culture. So I felt like, it was necessary to kind of go to the actors and get the actors to speak to their experiences and listen to them and work with them. And in fact, they helped me rewrite a lot of the dialogue and make everything authentic in that regard. So I'm very grateful. And I think, because we're dealing on so many different layers of reality, we needed that strong central grounding performance. So I think I thank Dio for that, because that's really what pulls people through. And we had a lot of great actors, but he's at the heart of it, and we're on his journey, and we have to connect with him in order to accept. And some of the logic doesn't even make any sense. Like if someone was to dig in and go, okay, I want to pick apart the logic of this, they wouldn't have a very hard time doing so.
I'm finding some holes.
Yeah, but who cares about the holes when you care about Anthony?
So not in the script writing process, though. You're talking there was a script that you were able to put together to the best of your knowledge and ability, and then when the actors were on set, you were kind of rewriting things. Is that what you're saying?
Like in pre-production. And we had like during production too, I had a former student of mine from Nigeria who was helping me in the script writing phase, Jimmy, and he came on. He was like shadowed me as a director on the film. So he was there every step of the way with us, and he became great friends with Dio and Getanesh and everybody. And that was a huge help. And then when we cast Getanesh, the actor who plays Abrahet, we decided that's kind of when we made the decision to make that character Eritrean, because previously she wasn't. My producer, coincidentally, is also Eritrean. And so I thought, well, this makes sense. And I like the fact that these are two characters from opposite sides of the continent, extremely, very different cultures. But also going through something similar and have a connection in a certain way, even though these cultures are so different. So with her, her aunt actually kind of helped us out. So we went and sat with the script and went through all the dialogue and, is this what someone would say? Does this sound right? Basically tweaked all the dialogue to make it more true to the culture and the character. So that was kind of the script writing phase, but it was in pre-production. It was before we started shooting, but after we were financed.
And how about references, like artistic, cinematic references? From my limited perspective, I saw some Lynchian themes and tones in there. What were your references? Of course, there are film references within the film as well, but what were your inspirations, I guess, starting out? And did you guys share films and it's you gotta watch this, this is what I'm going for here, that kind of thing?
Well, yeah, there's definitely, I've always, David Lynch was one of the biggest inspirations of mine when I first started making films, and I'll never escape his influence, because I think, just a brilliant filmmaker that seeps in. So there's certainly that influence there, even though this film I was kind of thought it wouldn't, but it's still there.
Sorry, it's there.
No, it's okay. I don't mind it. I think we all are inspired.
No, I say that in a very good way.
Yeah. There's certainly a lot of Hitchcock.
The Lost Highway room. I don't know. Isn't there a hotel room in that town? Anyway, keep going.
I was quite inspired by, in terms of the limited resources, was that movie Locke. I can't remember who directed it, but it was with Tom Hardy. It's just it's all a car ride, and it's just him talking on the phone, and it's so engaging. Just following his problems. And I was inspired by this idea of with strong drama, you don't need all the bells and whistles of everything else. In terms of the references, there's certainly a lot of Hitchcock in there. And I think for Anthony, there's obviously the Casablanca was the biggest one, which I You probably had seen Casablanca before, but I made you watch it again.
Watch it again. Yep.
And I think I sent you. Did I send you? I think I sent you a few other movies. Like
I can't remember exactly, but I know that for some reason, It's a Wonderful Life was another one that really ranked me with this sure. with this film. Just
is this to build Anthony's like what he grew up with watching, or in terms of what this film in particular is going to look and feel like? I'm guessing the subconscious of Anthony, like his perception of America type of thing.
His perception of America was more based on oh God, I'm trying to remember the reference that he referenced the character.
Sam Spade.
Sam Spade, and there was another one. Oh, good Lord. No. He referenced him in the movie.
He talked a lot about Bogart. He mentions
Bogart. Thank you. Yes, Humphrey Bogart. So he had this very Humphrey Bogart, men are a certain macho way, the way they carry themselves. They're like rescue the women. Like he had that very conceptual idea of that's what America was like. That's what American men were supposed to be like. But then come to find, it really wasn't like, it was just like, I really hope that people watch the movie first and then watch this interview, because
they will. Don't worry.
Okay, yeah, because it's a lot of spoilers. But yeah, very Humphrey Bogart-esque perspective of America, at least for Anthony. But for me as Dio, as the actor portraying Anthony, it was more of the Casablancas. It was the It's a Wonderful Life. Just those kind of references, along with a lot of YouTube videos and documentary clips of immigrants that were trying to cross the Mediterranean, and how they were dying and how they were getting turned away, and just the treatment of how immigrants get treated when they're trying to flee their home country to go to another country. And it's funny that this is just an ongoing conversation. And Jeffrey and I and Getnesh have had this conversation before, that the great thing about this film is it's always going to be relevant. Like even just down to about a week and a half ago at the southern border of Texas, all of the Haitian immigrants who had all been camping underneath the bridge. There was, like, I think just over 12,000 immigrants who had already left Haiti about 3 to 4 years ago when the last hurricane came through and just wiped out everything. So they had nothing to go back home to. So then they all migrated north, went into Mexico. And then from Mexico, after Trump was bumped out, and then now we have Biden, you know, now they all get there. And then we've all seen the images of the Texan Border Patrol on their horseback with their reins, which people think are whips, but they were actually horse reins. But it was just so inhumane. And this is a universal story. One of the things that really touches me is that, you know, countries' borders are all imaginary lines. They're all invisible lines that are created by human beings. Before our societies were as developed as they are now, there were really no such thing as borders. People migrated and just roamed around this earth as they pleased. And with technology and with the advancement of the human race is where we have become more jaded and more territorial, and we've divided ourselves off from other people just because of the differences of the way they look, the differences of the way they dress, the differences of the way they speak, culture. And it's really sad. And this movie reflects all of that. It's very incumbent of everything. And I think depending on the person who's watching the film, everybody can actually walk away and take away something different, but universally all within the same arena of just, we're all one race, and it's the human race. And that's really what it all boils down to.
Yeah, I think especially the phone conversations that Anthony has, for some reason, had the biggest effect on me personally. I don't know why, because I guess it was like pulling him to a world that he's just not able to grasp. And it's like, for some reason, I found that to be the most stifling moment, because he's like trying to deal with his present time conflict and problems. But then on the phone, there's a bigger and more important problem that's closer to his heart. But it's like this push and pull to me came through in those phone conversations. And even though I haven't been personally through an experience like his, I could feel that the push and pull of any situation really, and that nightmare. But I also want to ask, So did you film the boat scenes at the end then, at the end of the shoot schedule?
Yeah. Yeah, we shot everything in the motel room first, and then we had like maybe 3 or 4 days on location doing the boat stuff. What else was on location?
I'm curious how that felt, because when you're watching the film as an observer, you get so used to the room, and it's kind of like feels like a comfort zone almost, like this is where we're at. And then when they go to the boat, it's like it's suddenly like they go off and the world kind of widens up, and you're like, oh, you feel so unprotected, and the unknown becomes clear. Was that your intention?
I love that.
Yeah, I love that too.
And I really like that what you said about the phone call. I'm glad that you had that, because that was my intention with the phone conversations, was hopefully to get that. But yeah, definitely, I felt really comfortable in that motel room. It was like, we built it in a studio, and it's very nice, and like very, we're dealing with a lot of big emotions. The actors are dealing with a lot of big emotions day to day, but then we come out of it and we're in a comfortable space with friendly people, and not stressed because you have to get to the next location, or not stressed because the sun's going down and you got to get this shot. And I love that. Like, I love shooting in that way, where you're you go and you're comfortable, and all's good, and then you go into the film and then you experience the emotions in it. So yeah, like I don't know, from my experience going to do the on location stuff, I was like, shit, I forgot how frustrating filmmaking is when you're actually like, when you're rushing and you're waiting for stuff and things aren't working and you don't have this and you don't have that. And it's like,
yeah,
but just the way we shot in the hotel room, because we're handheld, we're just going, we're just
right
shooting, and it's all the good stuff. It's not the waiting and the
and also, like, for the story, I guess it works because it's like he's kind of imprisoned, I guess, in his mind, and imprisoned in the hotel room as well. And I guess in a similar way that inmates might get attached to their cells, I think the audience members also get attached to that room, like cozy little cocoon. But my next question was going to be where the location was and how you found it, and what were the things that you were looking for in particular for the setting. But I guess you've built it. What were the things though that you wanted specifically, like this is what it has to look like, kind of thing? What was important to you
for the motel?
Yeah.
Well, just kind of the layout of it, I suppose. And I wanted to have the bathroom and the colors. Like, the bathroom is kind of the safest space there.
Yeah.
It's where Abrahat runs in, and she's got them, it's the blue. And I wanted that kind of definition between those two rooms. And then the closet's kind of like, mystery place,
Dark.
yeah. I mean, it's where it kind of disappears into later, or Frank disappears into the closet. Sorry. We did location scout some motel rooms, and there's certainly, we shot in a town called Winnipeg, which is kind of middle of Canada. It's a decent sized city.
Mm-hmm.
And it certainly has its fair share of rundown motels. But they were all.
We did not stay there.
No, we didn't stay there.
We did a very nice.
But ultimately, yeah, it's a matter of like, you can't you're just so limited into what you can shoot. You can't take out walls. You can't get wider shots. All the rooms are quite tight. And we could really make it how we wanted it to look. And like, we wanted it with, our production designer, Oscar, he's a real perfectionist, and he spent so much time just getting all the details on the wall.
Down to the carpet.
Sorry, go ahead.
Down to the carpet.
Oh, the carpet. Yeah. I love it. Like, he was so excited when he found that carpet. And I'm so glad, because it became like kind of centerpiece to the movie. But yeah, I wanted it to look like a rundown motel, but like also, like you said, like kind of comforting. and a little bit designed, but not so designed that it feels too designed, if that makes sense. Like
yes, and a little bit mysterious, right? It feels like there are corners of this place that you may not know where it's going to lead to, as if, you know, there's like a tiny door at the bottom of the wall, or that you can enter into another world or something. There's something unsettling about it.
That's it. Yeah, like how do you make a room interesting for that long?
Yeah. And was it your first experience being in a kind of surreal-ish film, Dio? Like in a kind of like a surreal film like this? Was that your first time being in a film like this?
Yes.
And how did that feel? Did it, I mean, I don't know, I'm curious, like when you read the script and when you were talking to Jeffrey, like did it throw you off, and were you, I don't know, did you get sucked in?
I was like, after I read the script, like my agent called me in Toronto. I was in LA at the time. And my agent called me and said, Dio, you have to read this script. Because I've been having conversations with my manager here in LA and my agent in Toronto and my agent here in LA too, that I want to do, like, because I do a lot of features, I do a lot of television. And I was like, I want to do something independent. I want to do something that's more freeing, something that's more outside of the box. And then this came along. And my agent had just read it. It was perfect timing, because I've been complaining. It's like, okay, listen, I'm not complaining about the work you get me, but I need something that's more artistic, something that's not so cookie cutter. And then this came, and I read the script, and then I read it a second time. And I called my agent back and I said, I have to be a part of this, because not only was it telling a story that I had not experienced firsthand, but I had vicariously experienced it as a child through my parents. And it's so cinematically beautiful. It's so cinematically independent. It's not a blockbuster like Marvel and all those cookie cutter stuff. This is something artistic that people who love cinema, people who love movies, this is a collector's piece. That's what Cinema of Sleep is. From the title to the script, to the guidance of Jeffrey guiding us in our performances, and then to the finished product, people who love cinema are going to love this movie. Because when you watch movies, the way you watch movies inside a movie theater is very different from the way you go to an independent film festival, because you're excited in a different way. You don't know what you're about to be, what your eyes are about to be blessed with, how they're about to be fed. You know what I mean? And I think that's what this movie, Cinema of Sleep, does. And I'm very proud of it in that aspect, that I finally was able to check that box and be like, okay, now I can say I've accomplished that. I've done that. And I want to do it again, Jeffrey.
Over to you.
Find something.
Are you finding, Jeffrey, your style of filmmaking, or the things that you're drawn to, even the fact that the film is black and white, like things like that, do you find it a struggle to convince, like you have to go the extra mile to convince people for funding? How are you finding the audience reception? I don't know.
Yeah. Wait, did you watch the black and white version?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That's what was submitted.
Okay, I kind of do you want to screen the black and white version? Because I gave you the color version.
You know what? No.
I at one point
why do I think? Oh, maybe because of the stills. My mind went to that.
There is some black and white.
No, I think I did, but
I actually made a black and white version.
We did.
Okay.
And I submitted it. I had it up. Anyway, maybe I sent that.
Anyway, I might have. I think I
talk
did
about that
black
after.
and white version. But then in the stills, I was a bit confused, because I was then looking at the stills and I'm like, oh, am I misremembering this? So now because I saw the stills after, I'm mixed. Like, which one is the real one that I see?
We'll figure that out.
Well, we did have black and white in the movie also.
There is black and white. There is some black and white. Yeah.
There's some black and white.
But I did also make a black and white version. So
because I mean that felt fitting to me. I mean, being in between two worlds, like.
Yeah, I like the black and white version. I want it to be seen.
I don't know what the audience has seen now. I'm totally confused. Anyway.
Yeah, which one did you all see? It's hard to get financing. Well, it's always a challenge, but I think we're also lucky up here in Canada compared to down there because we have government money. So we have Telefilm Canada, which invests in Canadian films. And I would never have been able to make a film without Telefilm Canada because their mandate is it's not just commercial, it's not just commercial success. They also Canadian culture. So I was able to get fund the films in Canada because they're first in. So once they give you some money, then you can get some money from some other places. And my movies aren't that, they're pretty low budget, so it has challenges, and I certainly am having challenges now. And I've got a few things I'm trying to get made, and it's not easy. In fact, I was like, when I wrote this script, I had been working on for a really long time this other bigger project, which would have been, a lot more money. And we were like working really hard on it, trying to get it together. We had some pieces together, and then as it happens, financing kind of fell apart. And that's when I sat down and just wrote the first draft of this as like, I just got to make something that I can finance much easier, and I don't have to I want to get this much money, but if I don't get that much money, I can make it for I could make the micro budget version. I could do this film for like 100,000 if I needed to. We got money. We got enough to make it right, but still not a big budget. And that was kind of like, I never wanted because it's always the advice to do something like contained. It's like, why? Like I can be, if I'm ambitious in the idea, then, and everybody comes together, we'll find a way to make something happen. But this was the first idea that felt like it actually made sense to be in one room, because it's kind of his mind, and it's kind of the containment is part of
the story.
It works into the plot. It works on a psychological level. I think that makes it make sense. Like I don't want to do the movie where I'm just going to do this so I can obviously make it on a low budget. Go off to a summer cabin and everybody starts getting killed kind of thing. There's some great movies like that, and I like those movies, but
you can tell sometimes like what came first.
You can say like, okay, well, they decided to make that movie to make it. So hopefully I'm still able to make movies after this. We'll see.
You better be able to be true. One of a kind.
But
I'm actually trying to do a bigger budget movie now that is fully black and white and will only be black and white. It's a little more horror genre, so hopefully that helps me get some money to make it.
So that's what my next and last question as we wrap it up was, what you're up to next. So that's what you're up to next.
Yeah, so it's a period film set where I'm from in Prince Edward Island at the time of like turn of the century, sort of. And Green Gables.
All right. And it's already like in process, in pre-production?
No. We still have to get money.
Okay. Exciting. Cool. And what are you up to next, Dio, or right now?
I'm on a series, Chuck Lorre series called Bob Hart's Abishola. They just started airing season 3. They just aired the 2nd episode, which is a huge African wedding, which is really great. Another ensemble and cast that I'm blessed to be a part of. And just these last couple of jobs and experiences that I've had have now really inspired me to get behind the computer and start writing and, work more on the creative aspect of producing is probably the next thing for me, like acting, producing, and just creating, just being more creative. My journey started since I was 11 in front of the camera, and now I'm ready to jump behind the camera and be in more of a creative position from writing to producing. So
Nice.
that's where I'm at right now. Yeah.
I was well known
That's
for
great.
people my age up here in Canada because he was in Degrassi Junior High. I don't know if you ever watched that down there, but it was a big Canadian show. When he was a kid, he was on Degrassi Junior High.
Well, thank you very much, guys. We've actually gone beyond our allotted time, but I could have talked longer, but this is what we have time for. Thank you for joining us, and thank you to the Ben Film audience for watching the film and listening to this conversation.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.